Hi, I'm Mike Lanesman and welcome to another video tutorial.
This Photoshop tutorial looks at how to generate 3D shapes and just to have fun with your photographs. Let's have a look how it works. To begin with, we'll open an image. That's the image of the Coke logo. To create the 3D shape, we head on over to the 3D menu. We select New Mesh from Layer, Mesh Preset, and we're going to select Solar. You are now going to be asked if you would like to switch to the 3D workspace. We can confirm that we do. And there we have it. We have a 3D soda tin with our photograph wrapped around it. It can be moved on either X, Y, and Z axes. To save the image, we could save it as a JPEG image, and that would give us a white background, or we could save it as a PNG image or a GIF image. That would give us a transparent background. Now obviously this can be a lot more complex than what I'm showing you at the moment. Looking at the 3D panel, we can see we can edit the environment, we can edit parts of the scene, we can edit the current view, we can edit meshes, we can edit lighting. But we're not going to do that right now. We're looking at the basics of having fun with your 3D images. To save this image as a JPEG with a white background, we will select Layer and Flatten Image. There we have it with the shadow generated, and we can simply save it as a JPEG image. Let's move on. Let's open another image. What we can do in this instance, we head on over to the 3D menu, select New Mesh from Layer, Mesh Preset, we select the wine bottle. There you have a wine bottle with our image wrapped around the label. And again, we're able to freely move the bottle. We see the transparency in the glass, and we see our image as the label. Let's investigate saving this image. So in this instance, I'm just showing you the technique that we used before the advent of Photoshop Creative Cloud, the older legacy version, which typically would have been found under File, Save for Web. However, in the Photoshop CC version, exporting has been greatly enhanced by the quick export options. We're not going to examine this technique in this tutorial, as it will be the subject for another tutorial. To save this, we're going to save this as a PNG 24 file. If you're using any other version than Photoshop, such as CS5 or CS6, you would head over to the File menu, and you would simply see in the File menu, Save for Web. That has moved in the Creative Cloud version. We find that under the Export menu, and we select Save for Web Legacy. Looking at the preset options, we can use all of these options to save. We're going to select the PNG 24. In this instance, we do require transparency, so we will tick transparency. We will click Save. We can see now that the PNG file extension has been added, and we save it into the folder of our choice. When the Save for Web dialog box disappears, that means that our file has been exported. We close our original file without saving. We can now look at our PNG file and observe that the photograph has in fact been added as the wine label, and transparency is still intact. You would use this option should you wish to retain a transparent background. Let's have a look at another preset that is available to us. We'll open up another image. We head on over to the 3D menu, select New Mesh from Layer, Mesh Preset. This time we're going to select Cube Wrap. This will in fact create a photo cube of the image, and as you can see, as we rotate it, it has wrapped around all edges, hence the name Cube Wrap. Let's set up the angle that we require, and let's export this one as a PNG as well. We head on over to File, Export, Save for Web Legacy. The transparency is ticked, PNG 24 is still ticked. Click on the Save button. We will now save this as the PNG file. We close this file. We don't save it, otherwise we would be saving over our original file. And let's see what we can do. We can open up the JPEG image, the same scene actually before we started. We can now open up the PNG file that we've just created. We just move that over to the side. We head on over to the Move tool in the toolbar, and we simply drag and drop this picture into the next image. To change the size of this image, we can use the Edit Free Transform command, or Command or Control plus T, and we can simply resize it to fit in to our image. Now obviously this has got huge potential for having fun with your photographs, for making various photo compositions for your clients. The possibilities are endless. Let's close these images for now. Let's have a look at another option for the 3D preset shapes. From this flat artwork, we will now create a globe of the world. We head on over to the 3D menu, select New Mesh from Layer, and we will select Mesh Preset, and this time we're going to select Sphere. This now in fact gives us a sphere, and we're able to rotate this sphere, and we have a 3D globe of the world. Taking it another step further, we open up another image. This image was actually taken in an auto scrapyard of rust and general deterioration that had occurred on the door of a car. Let's have a look what we can do with this. We can turn this into a sphere as well. We use the 3D menu, New Mesh from Layer, Mesh Preset, and we create a sphere. Exactly the same as we did on the previous example. However, we're also able to animate this and save it as an animated GIF. Let's have a look and see how we would go about doing that. The first thing that we need to do is to bring up the timeline. It is a panel which is located under the window menu. We select timeline. You will now see the timeline visible. You can just stretch it out a little bit, makes it easier for us to work with. And we select the option Create Video Timeline. This now puts the contents of this layer, of the background, into the timeline, and we can now begin to animate. What we need to do is to head on over to the name of the background, which is called Background. We open up the disclosure triangle, and we are going to choose to animate the 3D camera position. What we need to do is to animate with the use of keyframes. Clicking on the stopwatch will create the initial keyframe. The keyframe has now been added. We see the yellow diamond on the timeline. We now move the playhead over to the full frame position, and what we will do now is we will simply rotate the globe. You will now also notice that another keyframe has been added to the timeline at the full frames position. We now head over to the end of the timeline, and we simply shorten the animation to the full frame position. We can bring the playhead back to the starting position, and we will now save this as an animation. We navigate to the File menu, we select Export, Save for Web Legacy, and for this example, the preset that we are going to use will be a GIF. ensure transparency is ticked. And because we have set up options in the timeline, it knows that we're going to want to animate. Looping options, we will pull down that option and select forever. Click on the Save button. Now we're not just creating a static GIF file, we will be creating an animated GIF that can be displayed in a browser. The options for the format, we pull down, we select HTML and images, as Photoshop will now generate the animated GIF and the HTML file. We select a location. Let's put it on the desktop. Let's create a new folder and let's call it Animation. And we click on Save. We can now test out this animation. We'll simply hide Photoshop. We find our animation folder that we created. We double click on it to open it. And all we do is we double click on the HTML file, and that will open up your browser. And there you have your animated GIF that can be placed into a website. It is very important to note that if you are going to be publishing this animation to a website, this folder, including the HTML file and the images folder, needs to be uploaded onto the server in order for the animation to work correctly. I hope this has prompted you to start having a lot more fun with your photographs and to enjoy the 3D capabilities of this exceptionally wonderful program that we call Photoshop. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.